Good evening, everyone. Hello. As you probably know, last night I signed an executive order authorizing $85 billion in federal budget cuts. Now, most Americans still don't understand what this whole sequester really means. I could explain it in financial terms or in human terms. But since I really have no idea about how money works or budgets work, I'll go with human terms instead. You see, we're all going to feel the pain from these cuts, even in the White House. From now on, my wife, Michelle, will only do 4 television appearances a week, down from her usual 75. So, you see, we all have to make sacrifices. It will be a difficult road ahead, but trust me, 9 months from now, you won't remember this sequester ever happened. Why? Because there'll be another, way worse financial crisis to deal with.
Yesterday, we did have Mr. Bernanke in our committee, and he came to tell us what he's doing with quantitative easing, and that is trying to stimulate the economy with the bond purchases that he's been doing, because he's trying to keep the interest rates low and create jobs. And he said that if sequestration takes place, that's going to be a great setback. We don't need to be having something like sequestration that's going to cause these job losses, over 170 million jobs that could be lost.
President Obama, what is your opinion of how you have done as president so far?
It's Bush's fault.
Mr. President, with all due respect, I'd like to talk with you about your administration and your accomplishments and what you've personally done in the time that you've been in office.
Let me make one thing clear. It's Bush's fault.
But Mr. President,
it's Bush's fault.
Let's move on to another subject, since you won't answer a direct question. How do you answer critics who say that you've lost touch with the American people?
I've now been in 57 states, I think one left to go.
You do realize that there's only 50 states, don't you?
We were not aware of how bad the situation was that we were inheriting. And it's not surprising then that they get bitter, they cling to guns or religion or apathy to people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment as a way to explain their frustrations.
Second Amendment, gun control. You've been on the NRA's board since '95, and this is a subject that you maybe feel more strongly about than any other.
I believe that
Make your case.
I believe that a person's moral compass can be determined by how he references free men the right to defend themselves. The Second Amendment is so obvious to me, it's insane that there's an argument. God gave, let's pretend there is no document. Let's pretend brave families didn't leave the tyrants and the slave drivers of Europe so that they could practice the religion of their choice, so that they could speak out without being murdered, that they could produce wool without the king's men coming and taking it from them every season of harvest. Let's pretend none of that happened. Let's just pretend this guy named Ted Nugent parachuted onto Earth and woke up one morning and saw these wonderful resources and had dreams of excellence and being the best that I could be. I don't need a document, and I don't need another man to explain to me that I have the right to defend my gift of life, and that there is an argument in America from Hillary Clinton, from Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, from a whole gaggle of numbnuts who would try to tell me they will dictate where, how, and if I can defend myself. I find that preposterous. I find it unacceptable, and I will not accept it. I am a free man. Don't tread on me.
They say assault weapons. They say assault weapons like the AR-15 are needed for self-protection and recreation. They are not. There's plenty of ways you can protect yourself and recreate without an AR-15. And let me say at the outset to all the press, no law-abiding citizen in the United States of America has any fear that their constitutional rights will be infringed in any way. None. Zero.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is online, on-demand internet talk radio for people who really dig fasteners. If that's you, then welcome aboard. Hi everyone, Eric Dudas here, and the co-host of Fully Threaded is the father of the legendary fastener formatting software known as the Scrubber. He's the amazing Mr. Brian Musker. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, not so amazing. It just happens to work. Okay, hi everyone.
Well, in these days, it's amazing that happens, and you've done a great job with it. Well, have you noticed any fallout of sequestration in the fastener world, Bri?
I have not seen anything relating to sequestration in the fastener world, okay? I see a bit of a slowdown of activity, slight, I think, but that's sort of what everyone else is seeing too.
Non-sequestration related?
Yeah, non-sequestration related.
Well, somehow, I don't know why I am not surprised. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're so glad to have you with us. This is episode 60 of Fully Threaded Radio, and we're publishing on March 7th, 2013. The big news stories on this edition are covered in depth during Mike McNulty's Fastener News Report. He's joined today by BB&T Capital Markets analyst Holden Lewis. The February FDI took a dramatic downturn, and they're going to explore the reasons why, including a look at the main culprit, pricing, and also a comparison to the PMI, which experienced an uptick last month. They'll also be talking about the MSC and Barnes Distribution deal, and we'll see what FDI respondents thought of that news. Mike also has a roundup of the industry headlines and his back page report on the segment today. Our feature segment on this edition is a conversation with turnaround artist Vince Chiappone. He's executive vice president of the Richard Mano Company, and he brings the perspective of a relative newcomer to the industry. We'll hear his thoughts on what it takes to make big improvements in a mature fastener manufacturing operation in need of some rapid retooling. And before all of that, we'll be speaking to someone who's known as kind of a big deal in the fastener industry. She's manufacturer's rep and NCFA board member, Ms. Jackie Ventura. What is she seeing in the market these days? And who does she call her rubber man? We'll get the lowdown on all of that, plus a preview on this year's NCFA Distributor Social, which is coming up on May 2nd. And stay with us until the very end today, everybody, especially if you're feeling like your world is being taken over by the cyborgs. I've got a hopeful story to share with you from my own experience that some of you are going to relate to. What do you think, Bri? Pretty good episode, huh?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's get on with it.
The sponsors on today's episode of Fully Threaded are Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. Also, Trinity Hardware Headquarters. Fastenal, Fastener Technology International Magazine. And, of course, we couldn't do it without each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're locked and loaded, and we'll pull the trigger on this one right after this. When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stelfast. Since 1976, Stelfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stelfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stelfast today through our website at www.stelfast.com and put us to work for you. Stelfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right. Hi everyone, it's Brian Musker. If you're listening to Fully Threaded, then you're no doubt aware of the FCH sourcing network found at fastenersclearinghouse.com. You've probably also heard about our legendary scrubber software that makes listing your inventory on FCH a snap. But have you heard about the new FCH SmartLink interface? With SmartLink, users of Business Edge, InSequel, and Distribution One have a new weapon in the war against excess inventory, because each of these platforms now links directly to the FCH scrubber system through an automated interface. The best part is that this new tool is available at no additional charge to FCH members who use Business Edge, InSequel, or Distribution One. With SmartLink, you can keep your inventory listings up to date with the click of a button, so it's a win-win for all FCH users. The new FCH FastLink interface is really big news, and we'll be thrilled to have your company using it. Business Edge, InSequel, and Distribution One users should contact their software provider for details, or just call me, Brian Musker. You can reach me through the FCH website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's fasteners with an S, and the S is for scrubber.
Hey, this is Clayton Allen from Buckeye Fasteners in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded. We look forward to hearing from you folks, so please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how we're doing, what you're thinking about the podcast. You can do that at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com, and you can get with us on Twitter. The handle there is Fully Threaded. Please also get out to our Facebook page for Fully Threaded Radio, and we put a whole bunch of supporting links out there, and we try to footnote some of the things that we borrow from here and there that we include in the show.
Or even things that we haven't borrowed that we just think are interesting.
True. So if you're a Facebooker, get out there. Hey, we're the people who bring you fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's the FCH sourcing network. I hope you're all out there using it when the need comes up to find a hard-to-find fastener item, or you're looking for a fill-in, or in the event that you're looking for a new vendor for a part. It's a great source. There are distributors from all across North America. It's free to use. The website is www.fastenersclearinghouse.com, and that's what keeps Brian and myself busy most of the time.
Right. More busy than I need to be at the moment, I have to tell you. But, we've been doing a lot of work on our statistics, and probably over the next few podcasts, we'll start dumping out little bits of analysis of this, how many times people really search for nuts and bolts, say, versus how many times do they look into them, drill down on them.
Yeah, in the world of big data, which I guess we're living in now, these statistics should prove very, very useful. At least they'll be interesting.
Right, because it sort of shows things really like the degree of tire kicking. We know how many times people search for things. Given that, we can compare that with how many times do people actually click on items to get the information about the suppliers.
Right. And the other kind of interesting news on the FCH front this episode relates to what members can do, and that is they can now subscribe to a quarterly program instead of an annual program. We're going to try and roll that out for everybody's convenience. We've had a few members request it, so now we're making it available. We'll have more details about that on the website, and we'll be talking about it more as time goes on as well, but that's in the works as well. So if you're out there using FCH, we appreciate it. If you're not out there yet, we'd be thrilled to have you using the network to move inventory. We have a great program for that. We're closing in on 900,000 listings, so your stuff should be out there too. It's fastenersclearinghouse.com.
Right, and just to note here that we, with a little bit of help from one of our longtime members up at Quality Component Supplies, I've found there was a long-time little glitch in the FCH relating to hex keys and hex wrenches, which we consolidated over the weekend, okay?
Was that Kevin Higgins?
Yes, the Kevin Higgins who hasn't quite made it to any of our booths at Las Vegas yet. But he pointed out something which when I looked into it, I realized that it was absolutely correct that we were very carefully classifying hex keys, but then again there was another part of the scrubber was quite carefully classifying hex wrenches. And we joined them all together, okay?
Eagle Eye Kevin Higgins. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah.
Hey, on the last episode, we mentioned a few association events that were taking place, and we left a couple out, and just want to make everyone aware. The Southwestern Fastener Association is having their spring conference in Tucson, Arizona. That's happening April 25th through the 28th. Actually, I think probably the 27th and 28th, that's a Saturday and Sunday. They're going to probably mainly do golfing, but should be a pretty good event. It's a beautiful town, Tucson is. That's going to take place at the Lowe's Resort and Conference Center. You can get more information on this event at their website, which is www.sfa-fastener.org. And Mike Rodriguez is the president of the Southwestern Fastener Association. He invited me to participate on their panel discussion, and that's happening on Friday, April 26th. So it should be a great event. Get the details on their website.
Great place to go for a conference too, okay?
Especially in April.
Yeah.
You know, it gets roasting hot there just after that, but a lot of times you can actually have a pretty pleasant time in April. I can tolerate it.
Right. One of my favorite places, Tucson.
And the other event we wanted to point out quickly is a joint event with the Midwest Fastener Association and the North Coast Fastener Association, and that's a Nucor plant tour followed by dinner happening on April 25th, so same day, overlap there. That's in St. Joe, Indiana. That ought to be a fantastic event.
Yeah, I would love to be there. That car museum is one I want to go to. It's a Duesenberg museum.
Yeah, so I think the dinner, Marty Nolan, president of the NCFA, mentioned to us, it's not listed here on the website, but they are having that dinner at a car museum. More details of this event can be found at either website, ncfaonline.com or mwfa.net. So you won't be able to make it out there because you and the lovely and talented Lynn Dempsey are, you're going to be for a couple of weeks in Italy.
Right.
And not on business.
No, it has nothing to do with business at all, actually, and all to do with pleasure. And yes, we've got a week in Florence and a week in Rome. So it'll be a repeat visit to Rome. I've never been to Florence before, though, so that'll be pretty cool. And I'll be able to test out my iPhone and Google Translate, too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, of course, as you know, I was just about to ask you, does your iPhone work over there? And I guess you have experience using, I don't do so much international traveling, but how does that work? How does that work over in Europe with your iPhone?
It works. It depends if you've organized through AT&T to deal with roaming, okay? But mine I have. And
Get it, roaming?
Yeah. Oh, no, I've used my phone. No, it works perfectly. I've used it in England. I've used it in Africa. I've used it it's fine. And in Australia. So it's one of these things. Now, the thing you don't want to do is be making too many phone calls, okay, because everything you do is long distance. However, as a means of, and you've got to sort of be a little bit careful that you're not trying to use features on the phone like location services, but it's useful and has great use for converting money and translating. You can just say into your phone, how do you say, hi in Spanish or something, and it'll tell you.
Do they speak Spanish in Italy now?
No. But once you had to take around a little book of phrases, you don't need that now. You just take your phone out and talk into it, and the phone says it out in whatever language you choose.
Okay, well, just make sure you choose Italian, because otherwise it's not going to help you very much.
Right. You do have to choose your countries pretty carefully.
Well, that's cool. I can't wait to hear what your experience is like. Now, are you going to take your iPad as well?
I don't know yet. It's possible. I don't know. I haven't worked out what that would help me over my phone at the moment.
Well, while you guys are having fun over there, I'll be at the Southwestern Fastener Association meeting, and everybody will be having fun. That Nucor meeting, they're, as I understand it, they're going to have a few NFDA people showing up as well, so it's going to be quite the jamboree.
Oh.
And you'll all be gabbing away. Now, I got some bad news, Bri. I did a bad thing, and I broke my...
Oh, no, not again.
I did. I broke my iPhone 5. It is, at the moment, not operational, and I have reverted back to my 3S, which is, I tell you, it's a fall from grace.
Wow. It's the sailor who fell from grace from the sea. Wow. Well, I guess it could be worse. At least you can just take it into you break, I fix, and get them to have a look at it.
Which is exactly what I did.
I know. That's what I did with mine when I got it wet accidentally, okay?
Now, the part they say is going to cost $99. I don't know what labor is, but, what else could I do? They had me over a barrel. I said, okay, go ahead and make the repair. Until then, I'm using the iPhone 3. I have no Siri.
I know.
Brian, I have no Siri.
How do you live? How can you possibly manage? But now incidentally, folks, this company, if you have a problem with your phone or do something silly like I did, leave it outside in the rain accidentally, or do something else, this company called uBreak, just a U, letter U, uBreak iFix, is great because they will have a look at your phone and work out. You don't pay anything for them to work out can they fix it or not, okay? I mean, you can't get a better deal than that if you've sort of accidentally dropped your phone in the toilet or something like that.
Which, incidentally, is not what I did.
I know.
I noticed you didn't even ask, so I'll just come out and tell you. I was at some friend's house last weekend, and we were playing pool, and he's got a great sound system over there, and they'd heard about the Imagine song that we played like 2 episodes ago on the show. And they said, man, wouldn't that be great if we could hear it over the house speakers? So we tried to put my iPhone 5 onto the house speakers, and whatever that jack was, it was not liking the iPhone 5, or I should say vice versa. And poof, out went the lights.
Wow. Well, at least you can get it fixed. in my case, the wireless system went poof in my old phone, and they couldn't fix it. So it could be worse. Now, I was going to say, at least you can take it into uBreak iFix. It could be that you were the Curiosity stuck on Mars with a memory parity error, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, the little Mars, the Curiosity rover it's dead in the water. It was in the weekend.
Is that right?
Yeah, they think that cosmic rays have burnt out one of the memory chips in it, or a memory position, and so they've been spending the weekend transferring all the functions from the dead computer across to the backup one, and that's going to start taking over the functions. But there's got a faulty memory location on it, and it can't work.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like when you fry out your iPhone. You go back to AT&T, they take the SIM card out, create a new little one for your iPhone 3. They swap it out. Boom. It's almost the same thing, except you're not on Mars.
Right. No AT&T office on Mars yet. Right. Though it's probably we could imagine something out of 2001: A Space Odyssey that would be there.
Yeah. Well, they had HAL. We have Siri.
Right. You know that you can buy. I saw this thing on the web. You can buy the HAL 9000i in camera, I don't have one, incidentally, but it's for people like me who remember 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's the whole unit done exactly to the original drawings from the movie. And it's got the red eye camera, and it can talk to you in some of Dave's, it can repeat some of Dave's little comments. No, sorry, Hal's little comments. Like, I wouldn't do that, Dave.
That's pretty cool, but I got to tell you, the only thing is, in this day and age, you can pretty much go like to any intersection on the road, and there's like 10 cameras spying on you, and it is just like everyone's watching you if you really sit back and think about it. I mean, they've got at least a dozen cameras at the gym watching us while we work out. It is almost like the cyborgs have taken over in some ways, you know?
Wow. I hadn't quite thought of it that way, but I guess, well, we're used to it. We're in Chicago, which has probably got more cameras than they are in China sitting around the city.
Well, I try and put it out of my mind.
Okay, so do I.
I mean, it's the only way you can remain sane.
Right.
So we're really getting off the path now. What's the upshot with Curiosity? Are they going to be able to get it back operational, or
Yep.
What's the story?
No, they think that it's going to take about another week to get it back, because the new or replacement computer has got to be programmed with all the locations of the masts and all sorts of things that they didn't really know about. But they think it can get back to full operation.
Well, what do? They bring a monkey up there in a spacesuit, or I mean, how is this all actually happening? Are there 2 robots that are working on it? I don't quite get that.
No, it's all being reprogrammed from the JPL laboratory, okay? And people there send it commands, and the computer itself is reconfiguring itself.
That is fascinating. Wish we could do that with an iPhone.
You just remember the iPhone, the little processor on an iPhone is probably more powerful than the one in the Curiosity. It just does different things.
Oh, because the Curiosity was launched so long ago, you mean?
Yeah, it was planned years ago. I mean, it's planned years ago.
Wow.
It's like the computer system, relatively, when the computer system in the space shuttle was like left over from the days before, when they had the 12 megahertz, IBM PCs. But we have the scrubber and fastener clearinghouse, and this is not old-fashioned.
Cutting-edge fastener technology, courtesy of FCH.
Right.
And I think at this juncture, it might be smart to introduce our first guest of the show today. She's known as something of a big deal in the fastener industry, especially if you operate in the Cleveland area. She's Jackie Ventura.
I'm a big deal.
Jackie, welcome to Fully Threaded.
Well, thanks for having me. The term big deal comes with age. After you've been around as long as I have, I guess you're appointed names like big deal.
How did you come by that moniker, actually?
Well, it was actually when I was working with Infasco, and a couple of people that had joined the team there said, "Oh yeah, I've heard a lot about you. You're kind of a big deal," and it kind of just
it took off.
Took off from there, yeah.
Well, a lot of people do know your name, especially in the Midwest, the Cleveland area, and so forth. And you are the proprietor of Fastener and Industrial Supply, and that's a rep agency that you run and operate yourself, isn't it?
That is correct. It's fasteners and industrial products. But I'm back in repping. I've reestablished my agency about a year and a half ago after leaving Infasco as a direct salesperson for them.
So we'll talk about that in a minute, and I just want to get something else out of the way before we get too much farther in our conversation here. I mean, people have been talking about it. People want to know about it, and we were talking earlier, we should just clear the air on this whole thing. So you and I, we've kind of got this disagreement in our smartphones. So we're big iPhone people. Brian and I were just talking about that, and you kind of have a different opinion.
I do. I'm an Android girl. I love my Android.
I thought you were a BlackBerry person.
I was. I switched. I was always a BlackBerry person because I liked having the keyboard. And I switched to the iPhone and was so inept at trying to type that I passed it along to my 9-year-old son and got a phone with a slide-out keyboard on it. And it makes my life so much easier. I do a lot of emails on my phone, and that was primarily the reason I used the BlackBerry. It had a great platform for emails, but now I switched to the Android, and I haven't had any problems with it.
You went from BlackBerry to iPhone to Android?
Actually, I went BlackBerry, iPhone, back to the BlackBerry because I disliked the iPhone so much, and then decided, my BlackBerry stopped working. So I decided, I wanted a smartphone, but I didn't want to go back to the iPhone. So I switched to the Android.
Now, the point that I really want to return to then is, what was it about the iPhone so much that you didn't like? Because all the people that I know, you're the only person.
I couldn't type on it, even if I turned it sideways. I was constantly misspelling words, and that flat screen, I guess I'm a touchy-feely person, and I need to feel where my keys are when I'm typing.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I can understand that. Now, what about the contacts? Did you have any problem with managing your contacts with the iPhone?
I did, and that was part of the issue, and I'm kind of having the same problem with an Android, so if anybody can help me with that, that'd be great. But the big issue I had with the iPhone was that I have almost 800 contacts, and for me to readily find somebody that I needed to send an email to, we're not supposed to text and drive or whatever, but even to call somebody, I had to scan through about 20 times to try and find my, the guy that I really wanted to call, and that was an issue. But I understand there's a search key and there's all these things to I guess make that process easier. However, my big problem now is syncing with Outlook. Once I get that mastered, I think I'll be happy with my phone.
So do you prefer your Android to the BlackBerry?
I do, yes.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the problem that BlackBerry is noticing. It seems like the rest of the world agrees.
Yeah, and to be quite honest with you, it's not the iPhone that I didn't like. It was just the fact that they didn't have a keyboard. So if they ever come out with a slide-out keyboard like my Android has, I would consider the iPhone.
So did you use the Siri to try and say, Siri, call Joe Blow or something?
No, I had an iPhone 4. That was before the 5 came out, and I didn't have Siri. What is it, a 4.5 or something that had Siri? Yeah. I didn't have Siri.
Okay,
but I understand Siri is a lot of fun. I was talking to the guys over at Solution, and John Riddell was trying to have Siri sing him a lullaby. I hear she's quite useful.
I can see that, actually. One of his post-lunch, post-prandial naps, no doubt.
No, actually it was pre-lunch, so.
That's even better. Well, okay, Jackie, we can agree to disagree on that, and, people have been talking. I just wanted to clear the air on that.
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there in the market these days? And I apologize for getting the name of your company wrong there earlier, but maybe you should consider changing it to kind of a big deal fasteners.
Well, there you go.
Kind of a big deal fastener sales.
Big deal fastener sales. Yeah, I used to go by JV Industrial Sales, and I don't know, I set up my agency rather quickly, and I thought, well, what do? I sell fasteners and industrial products, and so I just went with that. But that doesn't mean that's where we're going to stay with it. But anyway, as far as what I'm seeing out there, it seems like January was a very busy month. I was very surprised actually how quickly I was off and running the first week, and it didn't really seem to slow down. However, in February, I'm noticing a bit of a drop off, and it'll be interesting to see what the FDI says to see if that correlates, because I was amazed, and I love listening to the FDI report, that it did actually correlate with what was the number last month, was 56 or?
Yeah, 56 point something, but the main point was what a great jump we had over December.
Right. Yeah, it was a lot of activity, and it felt like things were real positive, and then, we ran into February, and for me, it seemed like it slowed down tremendously. Now, there are a couple industries, like the oil and gas industry, that seems like are still going really strong, and I've been, receiving a lot of orders for USA Fastener Group on B7 studs and things that are used in the oil and gas industry, but overall, it seems like pretty much of a slowdown for February.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I spoke to a couple of people, and they said that February had slowed a bit. They were waiting for the phone to ring a bit.
I haven't gotten that bad, but
I'm exaggerating. It wasn't as bad for them either.
it's not ringing as much, and I'm able to manage my email influx a little bit better.
Now, for people in the rest of the country that are listening, what's the footprint of oil and gas in your area, in the Cleveland area?
It's interesting you should ask that. We just had a meeting at the NCFA, the North Coast Fastener Association, which we're going to talk about here, I guess, shortly. That was the speaker was from the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program. And she came in and she was talking with our group about all of the fracking and the oil and natural gas drilling that's going on in Ohio. It's very, very extensive in the eastern part of our state. It was very interesting to see the number of wells that have been drilled over the last year, how many they anticipate drilling this year, and I think she forecasted out to 2015, and it's probably about 3 times as many as they anticipate drilling this year. Wow. So yeah, it's definitely a hot market, and obviously for our industry, I mean, it was nice to learn all that and hear about the drilling going on, but related to us, we got, the piping that, is used in, the drills and the fasteners that are used in the drilling equipment and things like that.
Yep. Oh, well, that's pretty good. I mean, it follows a dinner meeting that we went to last week with the Midwest Fastener, and the speaker was a guy from the Federal Reserve, and he was talking about the impact now and in the future of all the gas exploration in the U.S. and the effect it's going to ultimately have on the U.S. It's a very positive effect.
Yeah, the speaker that we had said the primary issue that we're having right now is processing facilities. That, once they get this gas or oil out of the ground, that aren't many facilities in the area to actually process it, into the form that it needs to be processed into to be a usable fuel for us.
Now, are those facilities in the queue?
I don't know. She said that there was one company that was going to be opening. I don't remember if it was Marathon or Exxon in the Ohio region. I think she said Canton. That they were going to be putting this facility and do some processing through the oil and gas people, either Exxon or Marathon. I don't remember what she said down there in that area.
Well, if so, then that seems like it'll be a great opportunity to sell a lot of product.
You would think so. I mean, it's definitely an industry to follow, and selling a lot of B7 studs and stuff. I'll hopefully see some of that business as it comes up.
You mentioned USA Fastener Group. That's obviously one of the companies you're repping. Who else do you have on your cart these days, Jackie?
Well, I have a lot of different people, and that's one of the difficult things is being a rep is the balance of the products and the different companies that you sell for. So I have a company that does O-rings and bumpers and grommets. I call him my rubber guy.
Okay. Does he know that?
Yes, he does. And that's Accurate Products. They're actually there in Chicago, and they stock all of their items. Actually, I believe they're going to be looking at listing with FTR, with Fasteners Clearinghouse.
As they should.
Listing some of their products on there. Yes, they should. He's actually very excited about doing that. So hopefully you guys can work with him. But I also have a screw manufacturing company, Triumph Industries, and one of the new companies I picked up is Detroit Washers out of Detroit, Michigan. They're a new washer manufacturing company. They've been in business about 3 years. And the one I'm really excited about too is Trinity Hardware Headquarters. I joined forces with them on January 1st.
We love those guys.
We do, yes.
They're good guys.
And Detroit Washers was like 3 booths down from us at the Vegas show too.
Yeah, I understand Eric's getting to know him. He's quite a fisherman.
Oh, Dan loves to fish, I tell you. He knows his stuff.
Yes, he does. Only he's pretty much in a lot of ice fishing tournaments, which, I can appreciate fishing and going out and getting a suntan and having a cold beer maybe, but ice fishing will definitely not be something that I would do.
No, ice fishing is absolutely not for me. The idea that you would, of your own choice, wander across a lake hoping to God the ice is not going to break is something for crazy people to me.
I agree. I walk on thin ice all the time. The last thing I need to do is a hobby.
to do it of your own choice.
Well, it's an acquired interest, but it is a great pastime, that's for sure. Who else you got on the ticket, Jackie?
Well, I have Anderson Manufacturing. They do custom cold form parts. And the thing that is really interesting about them is they have 6-die, 6-flow heading equipment. And I know you guys have visited some of these manufacturing facilities. So,
I didn't know they go that high.
Yeah, and it's really a lot of different steps in the forming of the product. So they can, in some instances, take parts that would normally be produced on screw machine equipment and make it on a cold header, and so it saves a significant amount of cost.
Cool.
So, and other than that, I have Fast Comp Electronic Hardware, and those guys are headquartered down in Orlando, Florida, and they're one of the world's largest stocking distributors of electronic hardware, spacers and standoffs and handles and things of that nature.
Well, that must be keeping you quite busy.
It is. I've been a busy girl these days.
Well, good for you. Now, on top of all that, as I understand it, you were elected to a director position with the North Coast Fastener Association. Is that true?
That's correct. I'm back on the board of the NCFA. They recruited me this year. I'm glad to be doing it. You know, we have a good board, and a lot of the people that are on the board are really dedicated to increasing attendance at the meetings, and we're trying to get some additional members to join, and we've already had a few this year, so we see good things coming up for the NCFA.
Right on. And one of those things happens to be an event that's coming up in May, and that's getting to be a pretty exciting tradition for your organization, and that's the North Coast Fastener Association Distributor Social. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's correct. This is our 5th annual Distributor Social. We started it 5 years ago, and it's one of the best networking events that I've been to, other than the fastener shows. It's a great way to get out and in a relaxed atmosphere, meet with your customers and your, vendors as the customers see it. And generally what we do is we look for sponsorship from suppliers, and we get a number of those, and then we invite the distributors to attend for free. And, that includes their cocktails and, beer and wine or whatever they wish to indulge in. But it's a great event, and, they have, not just fastener purchasing people that attend it, but we also have the sales people that attend, and, quotation specialists and the owners of companies and the managers. And it's just a great way to get out and work with the people that you deal with, either over the phone or whatever, and you get to go out and meet them face to face and talk with them.
Yeah, and I can personally attest that it's extremely well attended. When and where is this happening, Jackie?
This is happening on Thursday, May 2nd. It's in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Independence, which is centrally located. It's just south of the downtown area, and it's easy to get to from the east side or west side, wherever you're coming in from.
And there's a website for this, which we'll announce in a minute. We have one other attraction this year, I think, too, that we should announce. And I hope you have all the panelists, because I don't remember, but what's taking place before the social?
Well, we have a panel discussion, which you're moderating. I understand you did a great job last year. Sorry I had to miss that. I've heard many good things, but Disney was calling me. I couldn't change my vacation, unfortunately, last year, but I'm looking forward to it. This year's topic is going to be the challenges of the current fastener business climate. And we've put together a pretty good panel of people to talk about that in a variety of different areas. We have Simi from Stelfast is going to be one of the panelists, Bob Fawcett from Nucor, Dan Zender from Trinity Hardware Headquarters, and Don Shan from Solution Industries.
Wow, what a lineup.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a whole bunch of different folks going to be able to tell us how they are seeing things in the business climate. And you can maybe elaborate a little bit more on the format, since I missed it last year, but I understand, the it's an interactive thing with the people in attendance and the panelists. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we start off by asking questions of the panelists that are somewhat pre-planned, and then we kind of take it from there. We had some input from the audience, because let's face it, we all have ideas on all of these issues, and it's an opportunity to share. But with a panel like this, I don't think we're going to have any problem filling up an hour of conversation before we hit the bar.
I agree with you. No, there's no drinking at this event.
No, it's very,
I'm
very
kidding,
serious.
Of course. I'm kidding. Well, that's one nice thing about these suppliers, or the sponsors that provide their sponsorship. We give them drink coupons as well as, inviting the distributors to participate for free. So, included with your sponsorship, the NCFA member sponsorship is $225 and the non-members are $250. And that does include up to 10 drink tickets. We invite 5 people from each of the sponsor companies to attend with us. And it's a great time. There's a lot of people there. As you know, you went last year. It's well attended and something I look forward to being at every year.
If you're in the Cleveland area, you can't afford to miss it. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, frankly, within shooting distance of Cleveland, you should consider making the drive out there. And on top of all that, you also can score yourself a stealth as monkey if you missed it in Vegas. Last year they had the monkeys there. I think they will this year again. And where could people get more information on this, Jackie?
Well, the NCFA website is ncfaonline.com. And I'm on the committee as well, so you can contact me too if you have any other questions. You can use my website too.
And your website is at www.jackieventura.com.
That's correct. And my email address is jv@jackieventura.com.
What's the date again, Jackie?
May 2nd. It's between 5 and 8 p.m. Registration begins at 4 p.m.
Well, Jackie, it's going to be a great event. We sure do appreciate you joining us to describe it. And let's not wait so long until we have you back on the program again. What do you say?
I agree. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Maybe you'll be using an iPhone 6 next time we talk.
Well, if the iPhone 6 has a slide-out keyboard, then, that anything is possible.
Right. Or an iPhone 5S, perhaps.
Perhaps.
We'll be right back with more Fully Threaded.
Online Fastener Talk Radio. Hey, at least it kills time on long road trips. Fully Threaded Radio.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, or just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pell from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
Hey, Fastener people. Let's meet in the middle in Kansas City, Missouri for the All-American Fastener Show, May 8th to the 9th, 2013. This is Heidi Voltrauer, and I'm so excited to have the show in Kansas City at the Intercontinental Hotel on the Plaza. And getting there is easy. Once you catch a direct flight into Kansas City, or make the drive, you can park your car and enjoy the hotel and plaza with all of its amazing shops and restaurants right across from the hotel. We will have the golf tournament, booth setup, and of course our famous Fastener Bash on May 8th. and the show will be on the 9th, starting at 9 a.m. We've also added a lunch seminar the day of the show. For all your information about the All-American Fastener Show, look at our website at allamericanfastenershow.com. Hope to see all of you in May at the All-American Fastener Show in Kansas City.
This is Dave Parketney with Forefront Fasteners, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, fighting for truth, justice, and the fastener way of life. Back with you.
Right, not in that order necessarily.
Well, they're all pretty important, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we unfurled the fastener version of the Gadsden flag some episodes back, and of course that was "Don't Thread on Me." I'm thinking back to the opening of the show where terrible Ted Nugent was talking about the Second Amendment, and he kind of ended his comments by "Don't tread on me," which,
right,
of course, is what the original flag said.
Yeah, I think the "Don't Thread on Me" used to be on Fully Threaded, wasn't it? It may still be, wasn't it?
Well, it might have been a little bit incendiary for the post-election environment, and therefore it's taking a little bit of a rest. But believe me, it flies proudly in the hearts of all Fully Threaders.
Right.
Because all the amendments are equally as important, and we need them all to keep the fastener industry strong and healthy.
Right.
And, you know, with that in mind, I saw a tweet fly by out there the other day. It was from Daniel Rivlin of Bazi Baza, and it was talking about the fastener industry in China, which I guess kind of took a punch in the gut in 2012. This is a little bit of a summary. I think it was originally from ChinaFastener.com, where, of course, their motto is, "We know China, we know fastener." So,
right.
You know, it's got to be true.
Right.
The headline was, "China fastener industry recorded negative growth in 2012. And the story went along the lines of China fastener industry recorded negative growth for 2012 with a 1.5% drop year over year. This was being attributed to a decreasing market demand and also to international anti-dumping measures on Chinese fasteners." You know, Bri, I've seen plethora of stories flying around lately about anti-dumping, and not just against the U.S. and the EU. I mean, like the whole world, they got a big chip on their shoulder, I've noticed.
Well, when things get sort of tight, everyone blames everyone else for dumping, okay? I mean, that's what happens, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, I don't even want to start talking about the currency wars. Everybody's talking about that as well. Anyway, The story continues. Fastener exports from China declined in 2012 4.8% year over year to 2.46 million tons. And that translates to a value decline of 2.4%. $4.5 billion was their export value for that year. I don't know what the year before was.
Interesting. So perhaps your mating is reshoring initiative might be actually having some effect.
Well, that's a good point, Bri. And I noticed that Harry Mosier did show up on a podcast recently that I just discovered, and it's the Modern Distribution Management podcast. They're calling it Manufacturing Revival Radio. And Harry Mosier showed up on February 13th. I'll put a link to this on our Facebook page. It's only about 18 and a half minutes, but it's a good recap from Harry Mosier in case you were wondering what is the latest news with him and his latest kind of view on how is this total cost of ownership idea moving ahead. I had a chance to listen to it, and it's pretty good stuff. I wouldn't compare it to Fully Threaded, folks, so don't be disappointed.
But then you're a touch biased, okay?
But, you know, I think Fully Threaded listeners would probably benefit from branching out to other podcasts because there are a whole bunch of really good industry podcasts out there. And, again, this one is called Manufacturing Revival Radio. Again, there will be a link on the Fully Threaded Radio Facebook page.
Okay, good.
Hey, we're coming up on the Fastener News Report, and Mike McNulty and Holden Lewis will be discussing the latest FDI report. And I'd just like to take a moment to remind everyone, if you're a fastener distributor and you're located in North America, we need your input. The website for the FDI is www.fdisurvey.com. Get out there, register your company. The survey takes, less than a minute to fill out. It's only 5 multiple choice questions. It's anonymous. It's secure. You'll be helping out the industry, and we really need your help.
Right. We want as many fastener distributors and as broad a range as possible, because then the index becomes more accurate, okay? So don't think just because you're a little distributor or if you're the giant one, then you shouldn't be part of this. It's important that all of you be, okay?
Correct as usual, Bri.
Right.
The Fastener News Report is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics and Fastener Technology International Magazine. Hey, thanks again for joining us, everyone. We really appreciate it, and it's just so gratifying to see the numbers of listeners go up each episode, so thank you. And now here's the hyper-focused, back from Stuttgart, Germany, Mike McNulty.
Right.
Thanks, Brian and Eric. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored today by Volt Industrial Plastics, the makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Well, I am back in sunny Ohio after attending Fastener Fair Stuttgart in snowy Germany, which was clearly the biggest fastener trade show that I have ever attended. With over 800 exhibitors from 36 countries and more than 10,000 attendees from nearly 100 countries, it was almost impossible not to stay focused on fasteners, even with all the easy access to good German beer and German food around every corner. The 2013 staging of the show set records for the number of visitors and number of exhibitors, as well as for the amount of exhibition space. The percentage increases compared to the last show were 28, 21, and 30% respectively in each category. If you are interested in the fastener industry outside of North America, then I suggest a trip to Germany's cradle of the automobile industry to attend the next Fastener Fair Stuttgart in March of 2015. Now here's today's Fastener News Report. In today's top story, we're going to get the February 2013 results of the Fastener Distributor Index Survey, also known as FDI. Also in today's report, we have some newsmaker headlines from PacWest Fastener Association, TC Tapsaver, Tucker Fasteners, MSC Industrial Direct, and Barnes Distribution North America, as well as a back-page report on a new record for tax revenues. We will get to all of that and the Fastener Distributor Index results for February right after this.
Volt Industrial Plastics is the source for all your high-quality plastic fastener needs, and customer service is their #1 priority. With almost 1 million fasteners in stock and same-day shipping on stock items, Volt Industrial Plastics carries inventory so you don't have to. Volt manufactures everything in-house from over 125 different materials, and they're proud to say 100% of their products are American-made. And of course, custom tooling and in-house bagging is available. Contact Volt online at www.voltplastics.com. Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
Our hearts are in fasteners, so join us in the heart of the fastener industry for Fastener Tech 13. This is Nancy Rich, Fastener Tech Show Manager, inviting you to join us June 10th through 12th for an event hosted by Midwest Fastener Association and Fastener Technology International and sponsored by Fastener Industry Groups. This is an event produced by the fastener industry for the fastener industry. Its success returns to the industry through scholarships, education, and various other programs. Fastener Tech allows many fastener and fastener-related companies a great opportunity to meet with their industry and source many products in one location. The trade show will feature fastener manufacturers, heat treaters, platers, and other fastener service companies. Fastener Tech will also feature educational and industry informational seminars. You'll also have the chance to enjoy several social events. Your time at Fastener Tech will include great networking opportunities. Fastener Tech 13 will be held at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. Be part of an event bringing American industry together. More details of this event may be found at www.fastenertech.com or at www.mwfa.net.
Back to the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
In February, the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as FDI, slipped to a disappointing result of 48.7, which is a significant drop-off from the encouraging 56.9 that was recorded in January. FDI data is collected and analyzed by BB&T Capital Markets and the FCH Sourcing Network, and it seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener industry. To get some answers to the questions surrounding the FDI plunge in February, we talked to Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Hi, Holden. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hey, Mike. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
You're welcome. Now, in February, the FDI made a quick retreat backwards from its positive result in January. I think you warned us that this might happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I tried to say that it wouldn't have surprised me to see February not as good as January, simply because since respondents should be looking at this relative to the prior month, January off of December was a no-brainer, but February off of January would have been a harder comp. So yeah, certainly I'd love to take credit for being a genius and calling a directional change. However, I would be dishonest if I told you I expected to see something sub 50 again. That result actually does surprise me quite a bit, both in terms of the order of magnitude of the decline, but also because, frankly, if you look at the broader PMI, which measures manufacturing across the U.S., it actually ticked up a little bit in February over January. So I'll be honest, I thought the result was a bit of a head-scratcher. And look, we've seen some interesting things in this index so far, most interesting being that period late last year where you saw terrible current monthly results but better outlook statements. And so, I think that the index has proven to have some information to share. But this is a bit of a head scratcher to me. Now, I can probably anticipate your next question. I might just jump into it. Fastenal reported their daily sales rates today, and they saw a little bit of growth relative to where they were in January. But frankly, I thought that the number was a bit disappointing. But when you really dig into the hows and whys, what Fastenal is suggesting is that they had some pretty nasty-ish weather over the course of the month, citing some storms through New England in the north, citing storms in places like Colorado and Arizona, where there were some spots where they had stores closed for a week. And it's entirely possible, I suppose, though I didn't see anything in the commentary about this, but I mean, I suppose it's entirely possible that the month simply suffered some disruptions, which is having some bearing on the result, because when you're being disrupted, it may be simply difficult to be able to divine what the true state of things are. So that would be my speculation at this point. And you'll have to see what March holds, I guess.
Right now, what was the main driver of the lower result? I think was the sales number, right? And that would be impacted by weather as well as the shorter month. Is that
yeah, that's
possible?
right. All the other indicators, or all of the other metrics that we include in the FDI, things like inventories, employment, et cetera, were really pretty stable. Really didn't change that much. So yeah, it's certainly the fact that sales was the volatile one certainly could suggest it. And again, I would suggest to the listeners that we do have a section there that allows you to sort of make any sort of special or added commentary that they may have experienced, seen, or want to share with us. And certainly folks can be free to share anything that they want in there. And so if there's months where something peculiar happens, we'd love to hear about it. So at this point, we can probably just speculate based on, as you said, Mike, the fact that the sales was the biggest delta in the month. We can probably speculate that weather had an impact on this. Like I said, in the real world, we certainly saw it have an impact on Fastenal's numbers.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, to see this big of a slip from the really good number in January was surprising. A little bit lower, especially you mentioned the PMI, the Purchase Managers Index, going up. And any ideas on why that went up? And we went down?
Unfortunately, yeah, to speculate. Unfortunately, the PMI doesn't give a lot of detail about exactly what went up and what went down. They do provide some representative commentary in their release when they report it. We usually give those a good scan, and usually they're not that relevant, frankly. You know, how can 7 representative comments explain something as diverse as the U.S. economy? But, you know, we went back through them after we kind of saw this result, and, you know, one thing was notable, and that was that those sectors that were involved with housing in some way, wood, furniture, you know, their tone in the representative commentary was perhaps a bit more robust than was true of chemicals or, you know, some of perhaps the more purely industrial end markets. So it's entirely possible that the PMI is being driven by the recovery that's being seen in the housing market and the ripple through effect that has on various manufacturing industries, and that when you get into sort of the pure, more infrastructure-driven type industrial names, maybe they're lagging. That's entirely possible, but I would still be very surprised if that alone were able to explain the difference between the PMI going up and the FDI going down like it did.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind for me, you know, maybe with the FDI going up, it was, you know, maybe a lot of it was based on emotion in January, and then maybe in February people got a little bit more fear from all this, you know, things coming out of Washington with the sequestration, or, you know, the payroll taxes going back up, people actually seeing that in their paychecks or something like that. Any indication from the responses that had an impact?
Not really. Now, I will say that the responses in January, of which there were quite a few, were generally pretty constructive. The responses in February, which were generally lighter, were generally a bit more sober. And I think perhaps the better representative number is taking a look at kind of the six-month outlook statements. The people or the respondents who are looking for things to be better 6 months from now still clearly outpace those who are looking for it to be worse 6 months from now. So nobody is, at this point, it doesn't seem like very many folks are looking for, you know, a continued erosion of end market activity. However, what we did see is we saw that the ranks of those who are sort of expecting it to be the same 6 months from now really swelled up quite a bit. So, you know, where anyone is expressing an opinion or a direction about the future, it's more heavily weighted towards up than down. But an increasing number of people are not expressing much of an opinion about the future, which, again, I guess goes to your comment about there was a fair degree of enthusiasm that we sort of cleared a whole bunch of hurdles and maybe we can sort of go forward without as much sort of news risk and that sort of thing. And, you know, what you saw, I think, in the outlook statements was exactly that. You know, we get past that, and now the tough slog of doing business in North America and the fastener trade. And people are sort of looking for business to continue at current rates, maybe a little bit better. But, you know, no one is arguing this economy is off to the races again.
Right. Yeah, the other thought that came to mind is, you know, the honeymoon was over, and it was a pretty quick one. But
yeah, it's, you know, a lot. I do suspect that a lot of it was sort of news cycle risk. And, you know, the news cycle risk comes and goes, and people realize that still stuck with their conditions. And, you know, I suspect that there was a bit of that took place for sure.
Yeah, still got to go to work every day in battle. Now let's shift over to the supplemental question, which ties into the big story in the industry this month. Was the question was, what impact might MSC buying Barnes Distribution have? And which is, you know, it's a big story. And what did people tell you?
Yeah, well, it was interesting to see how big a story it was, because MSC has not historically been a major player in the fastener world. Barnes does a lot of C-type items, does a lot of fasteners, but I wasn't sure exactly how entrenched and ingrained in the, you know, sort of in the fastener world they may have gotten themselves, because I kind of viewed them as being a bit of an underperforming distributor over the years. So I was really interested to sort of hear the responses. And I will say I think I was a bit surprised by the responses. I kind of thought that most wouldn't have much of an opinion on them. And it wasn't the majority, but a healthy minority of the respondents did seem to know who they are, run into them, and actually felt like MSC acquiring Barnes Distribution would help MSC in the market become more of a force in the market. There was a healthy minority that actually saw MSC, perhaps tangibly benefiting from this acquisition of the Barnes Distribution. The other thing I thought that was interesting was that the slight majority, in fact, has not run into Barnes Group before. And of those, the vast majority of them felt like the fact that Barnes has been absent in the past is likely reason why they'll be absent in the future. Very few people suggested that, it might be the fact that Barnes is already a strong operator and MSC can't make them better, or that MSC is not a good fastener company. Very few people suggested that those were the reasons why, this transaction may not matter. They just typically said they weren't there before, so I doubt they'll be there now. And I can tell you that one of the rationales for MSC buying Barnes Distribution is simply to get access to that product line. And if there's markets that Barnes was not in before, and there are, I think that MSC has a far greater capacity to bring those capabilities into those markets. And so I think the cautionary tale here is that perhaps more people had seen them and think that they're going to be a factor. But those people who haven't seen them, the cautionary tale is if MSC can make a go of fasteners, you're more likely to see them in the future because they have the wherewithal to bring that offering, as well as everything else they do, into those markets where perhaps Barnes Distribution could not.
It's interesting. One of the things that caught my attention was that MSC has a goal of getting their sales almost doubling from where it was last year. And do you think that would mean they're going to be looking at some more fastener distribution acquisitions, or acquisitions in other areas?
Well, they could be. Acquisition has become an interesting topic within the industrial world, within the distribution world, because, if you go back 10, 15 years ago, for the most part, a lot of these distributors really didn't acquire that much. And the rationale was simply, we already have our network built. The best way to drive returns is to put an organic dollar over the existing network. And when you went out and acquired somebody, typically the barriers to entry were such that your top 3 salespeople from the firm you just acquired would go out and hang their own shingle. And so it was very difficult to acquire anything going back 10 years ago. But that does seem to have changed. And companies like Grainger and MSC, who have not historically been acquisitive, have become more so. And I don't think that any of these companies have targeted anything specifically. The one thing they don't need to do is they don't need to expand their geographic base, but they definitely want to expand their product offering. And, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying, sure, I think that MSC, Grainger, and others are reasonably acquisitive. I think they're going to acquire a lot of things, primarily capabilities. What Barnes brings to MSC is a greater capacity to do bin stocking and vendor managed inventory, which is an area that MSC struggled with before. But I think that they're first and foremost going to be trying to acquire services, but they certainly will acquire products as well. And that certainly could mean that there could be more fastener type acquisitions in the future. The one company that seems absolutely determined not to be acquisitive, however, is the big guy in the fastener trade, which is Fastenal. They've rarely done acquisitions before, and they show no real appetite for doing acquisitions in the future. So the Goliath in the space, at least, is going to remain organic, not going after smaller players. But yeah, you're going to see some of these other guys begin to encroach and want to be involved. And it could be Grainger, it could be MSC, but you can't rule out guys like DXP. They've made forays into fasteners before. It's still a small piece of what they do. But yeah, it's something, it's a two-edged sword. It's certainly possible that somebody could be coming for your business. On the other hand, there's probably someone out there that wants it if you want to give it up.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was just at the fastener show in Germany last week, and it's funny enough, I thought of you a couple times. I saw 3 guys with Fastenal shirts walking around, and they were in a hall with a lot of Asian suppliers. I don't know if that means anything. And then I also saw a vending machine on display by Fabry and that. So, I mean, it's, you talk about consolidation and there's acquisitions being looked at, but there's just so many companies involved in the fastener industry. It's like 800 exhibitors there.
Well, that's true. And the point about Fastenal being in a room with Asian companies, it again gets to the heart of why scale has become increasingly important in the distribution space. Everyone knows that when you increase the number of touches, it decreases the productivity of your network. And, in Fastenal's case, they don't need to go outside the organization in order to source from Asia and other sort of lower cost areas. They have their own infrastructure built up in Asia that allows them to sort of foreign source directly from themselves. And therefore, they don't need to use a master distributor that exports from Asia to the States and pay that markup before getting their own markup in the system. And they can do that only because they have availability, they have the available capacity and the scale to be able to do so. And we've talked on this program on occasion about some of the challenges I think that smaller distributors are coming under and will continue to feel. And most of those come down to scale, access to capital, and willingness to invest in capital-intensive growth programs. And what you were seeing, I think, with the Fastenal shirts, I think you were seeing some of that at work.
Yeah, it's interesting times, and it will also be interesting to see what happens with the FDI next month. If it's going to continue the seesaw effect, or if we're going to settle in back at maybe at the 50-point level.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I'll continue to put out there a prediction that may have no reason to actually happen, but I would not be surprised if it ticks back north of 50 and begins to evidence some growth again. That just feels, frankly, like what the market is telling you, is that there's, the concerns of the latter half of 2012 seem to have melted away, and at worst, we seem to at least be picking up off of what were some pretty dismal fourth quarter levels, and I wouldn't be surprised if the reading is better in March than it was in February.
Yeah, I would join you in that. I think it's going to go back up again. So we will wait and see what happens. And once again, Holden, thanks for your insight, and thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
I'll look forward to speaking to you next month.
All right, see you later.
Take care.
That was Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Holden has a regular column on the FDI that appears in the print and digital editions of Fastener Technology International magazine. Next up, today's top Fastener Newsmaker headlines. The Pacific West Fastener Association is reporting a surge in membership. It now has 150 total member companies, and that number is expected to grow throughout this year. PacWest President Russ Duran is attributing the growth to a recovering economy, relatively strong business conditions in the fastener industry, and people joining the association to take advantage of discounted member rates for Fastener Training Institute programs. Terry Hawk reports that TC Tapsaver Incorporated of Walled Lake, Michigan, was purchased by Brian Mann at the beginning of this year. Mann has over 20 years of experience in tap manufacturing and applications, and Terry and Brian have been working together for some time now. This transition allows Terry Hawk to retire after 22 years of running TC Tapsaver and with over 40 years of work in the fastener and tooling industries. Tucker Fasteners in the UK is closing at the end of this month. Overall, around 220 jobs have been lost following an ultimately unsuccessful campaign by unions and politicians to stave off closure of the decades-old factory in Birmingham, England. Tucker is owned by Stanley Black & Decker in the USA, and production of their fasteners is being shifted to other plants in Germany and the USA. Reports indicated that the plant in the UK has been losing money for nearly 15 years. And our top newsmaker headline is that MSC Industrial Direct Company is acquiring the North American distribution business of the Barnes Group, also known as Barnes Distribution North America, or BD&A. With this acquisition, MSC adds a highly complementary provider of fasteners and other Class C items to its current sales force and VMI solutions. The purchase price will be $550 million, and the deal is expected to close between now and the end of May. BD&A is headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, and it serves roughly 31,000 customers with about $300 million in sales per year. MSC is headquartered in Melville, New York, and its annual sales for the fiscal year 2012 before this acquisition were $2.36 billion. By 2016, MSC expects its sales to grow to $4 billion per year. Finally, let's turn to the back page for a report on a new record in tax revenues. The Congressional Budget Office in the USA is forecasting that federal tax revenue will top $2.7 trillion in 2013, which is slightly higher than the nearly $2.6 trillion that was collected in 2007, the highest amount ever received by the USA federal government. During the recent recession, tax revenue dropped to $2.1 trillion in 2009, but it has been recovering since then, and if the CBO is right, the federal government will set a new world record for tax revenue intake this year. $2.7 trillion is a lot of money, and it's interesting that this is basically the same amount of money that the government spent in 2007, according to the data available on the White House website. The problem, however, is that from 2008 through 2012, the U.S. government has spent an average of $3.5 trillion each year, with plans to do at least that amount of spending this year. That's right, regardless of all the hysterical hand-wringing over $80 or $90 billion in reduced spending growth, aka the sequester, overspending by at least $800 billion is the current plan in Washington. Well, I have a better plan, which is pretty simple. Just go back to the federal spending levels of 2007, and the budget will be magically balanced. It's not more complicated than that, and it's not really a big sacrifice. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Remember to send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Up next, it's the Richard Mano Company's turnaround artist, Vince Chiappone, on Fully Threaded. When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in packaged quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
Hi, everybody. This is Sue Rice of the FCH team with an exciting new option for FCH members. If you're already an FCH member, then we've probably had a conversation or two, since it's my job to make sure that everything runs smoothly for you as you participate in the network. That includes reminding you when it's time to renew your annual membership. Now we have a new program that just might be right for you, quarterly payments. This new option lets you pay for your FCH membership automatically at the start of each quarter, allowing you to split your payments over time and leaving you one less thing to be concerned about. And don't worry, I'll still be calling you on a regular basis to make sure things look good with your FCH account. After all, that's my job. If you have questions about our new quarterly payments program, contact us through our website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com or email me directly at sue@fastenersclearinghouse.com. Thank you for using the FCH Sourcing Network, and we'll talk soon.
Hi, this is Heidi Voltrauer, reminding you that the All-American Fastener Show is right around the corner. Let's meet in the middle in Kansas City, Missouri, May 8th through the 9th. Details and registration information are available online at allamericanfastenershow.com. See you there.
Brian and Eric back with you. Well, we talked to lots of people in the industry who have 20, 30, even 40 years and more on Fully Threaded.
Yeah, actually, weren't we talking to Terry Obarski about someone she told us had been in the industry for since Noah was building the Ark or something?
Like 80 years in?
Yeah.
That was a good conversation. Well, in this case, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk to a relative newcomer, and we'll get his perspective. I think it offers many ideas that probably are something kind of new on Fully Threaded Radio. With us now is the Executive Vice President of the Richard Mano Company. They operate out of Babylon, New York. It's Vince Chiappone. Hey, Vince, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brian and Eric. Pleasure to be here.
It's good. It's our pleasure.
So, relative newcomer, what does that actually mean? How many years you got in? Brian and I are hanging around 7.
Well, I'm sitting there at about 40 months right about now.
It feels pretty good, Brian, huh?
It's a babe in arms, really.
and the industry does not let me forget that either.
Yeah, you got about 20 more years till that goes away.
Well, they keep telling me I have about 20 more months to go before I'm in it for life. So I think that's the next countdown.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to say, once you're in, you're never going to leave, or the odds are pretty low. What are you thinking for yourself? You see yourself staying with us?
Well, right now I'm having a great time. I mean, I'm in a position that every day I'm learning more and putting more of the pieces of the puzzle together. I certainly meet a lot of different personalities, and the one thing that I've learned more than anything else about manufacturing is every second counts. And just coming from a P&L background and a sales background, it's kind of taken that ROI matrix or that bottom line matrix and really just emphasizing that now with the making of parts. When we start talking about cycle times and speeds and feeds and moving it in between each of the different processes to the completion, I mean, that's your money. But that's also a way, as I'm trying to do, is build the value behind our product, which is, a little bit more unique coming from my world to, the fastener industry. It's fastener industry, everybody will tell you, or at least most people are dying to tell you that, hey, this industry is about relationships. And, what sales organization doesn't want to believe that? But I think we're also starting to see some transition in the fastener industry where it's not only about relationships anymore.
No, I think there's a lot of people who would agree with you on that. And let's talk about that a little bit. But just before we get into it, please tell us a little bit about the Richard Mano Company. What's it all about? And then also, how did you become involved with Richard Mano?
Well, the Richard Mano Company is a domestic manufacturer. We have about 35 years of history in the business. A lot of people will have heard of the Richard Mano Company, and a lot of people know some of the changes and challenges that we've been through over the course of 35 years. Back in 2009, I was contacted by Vincent Mano, who's the sole owner of the Richard Mano Company. He had purchased the company when it was going through a hard time from his father. We were a company that was a debtor in possession. And back in 2009, Vincent decided that he wanted to make a change. And he brought me in to really transform the company from a, family owned and operated business. He wanted me to take it to the next level, or maybe some might say a more stable and professional level, so that there's some value there for his son as he grows up. So, we've been doing that now for the last 40 plus months. We've had to do a lot of learning and growing and transitioning. And I think most people today, when they hear the Richard Mano Company, they really have bought into the changes that we've gone through. Not just a quality domestic manufacturer, which we've always had, but now we're an on-time domestic manufacturer. We're a company that we have about 80 employees. We've turned over our entire front office. There are no more Manos in the Richard Mano Company. Vincent Mano is a retired owner, a non-active day-to-day participant. We are an ISO 9001, 2008 certified company. And what we do is we're able to distinguish ourselves from not just being a job shop, but we also supply many of the major catalog houses to the tune of about 3,500 standard commodity items that are off the shelf that we have ready to ship each and every day.
Wow, that's a book.
So now we like to talk to people who manufacture in the US, incidentally, so this is good. But what's your specialty in manufacturing? I mean, what items is, for people who don't know you, say, in different parts of the country, what's Richard Mano known for?
Richard Mano, more than anything else, when it comes to the types of parts, shoulder screws. That's what we were always known for.
Okay.
We've increased that over the years, where we now have a full line of dowel pins, silver, nylon, brass tip set screws. We have knurled thumb screws, spacers, standoffs, but those are just a portion of what we do. About 45% of our overall business comes from specials to print from 1/16 to 2 3/8. And these are for machined parts.
So a lot of this is for the electronic industry, is that right?
Absolutely, but we do a lot for the military. A lot of the larger companies that are out there that require on the things that Richard Mano has versus the typical job shop, from being ISO certified to being ITAR registered, QSLM and QSLD approved for Class 2. We offer PPAPs because we have a full secondary department. These are the things that really start to help position Richard Mano above just, the traditional mom and pop job shop out there with about 12 to 15 machines.
So you explain how you came into the company and why you came in, but what in your background made you a good candidate to do that? What in your experience is helping you to understand how to make all these changes?
Well, my background is I've become a turnaround specialist. Companies will hire me, and whether it be for a division, whether it be for a district, whether it be for a company, they hire me to come in there and basically fix what is wrong. And, sometimes people don't even know what is wrong. They sit there and they say, we're just not happy with our profits, or we're losing market share. And they'll say, we need you to go in, assess, solution, and implement how we can move this company from where we're going to start with you coming in to where we'd like to be down the road.
You're the Mr. Wolf who comes in. I'm thinking of that guy from that movie Pulp Fiction, the guy who came in to fix things up all the time.
Yeah.
Yep, and you know what? And it's been a great ride. I've done it through a variety of industries, and I will tell you that I think manufacturing clearly has been the hardest. And it's not just because that's what I'm currently in. It's because there were so many variations to learn here. I mean, this was not just the traditional, it's a service. I mean, this was having to learn about cycle times, learn about reading prints, learn about salt spray test and outside processing. I mean, it has been a tremendous undertaking to learn. And that's why I think the industry, when we talk about all these people that have, 30, 40 years of experience, the one thing they've all told me is there's no book. You will learn this industry by doing. And you know what? They were absolutely right, because no matter what matrix for business measurement that I put in, guess what? there was no sitting behind a desk. You had to get out on that shop floor. You had to take your stopwatch. You had to time the cycle piece per second, look at what you quoted it to be for the cycle piece per second, go back to the setup person and ask about the speed and the feed of the bar to get to the cycle time that you need. Then you had to learn about the various material grades and why you might not want to speed it up too much to hit a certain cycle time. Because again, we're cutting it down from bar stock. We're not cold hitting it. So it's, you're always learning. And I think that's one of the fun things, about this industry. And it's one of the things that we've incorporated into our sales pitches. We now, instead of looking to go horizontal and just say, hey, send us all your prints, we'll source everything for you. We're sitting there and we're saying, no, let us try to help educate you on what you should be sending to us.
Yeah, right. Good comment.
Because there's a big difference when you're turning down bar stock versus cold heading it or running it on a multi-spindle or looking at the labor rate for a setup charge on a CNC versus, a single spindle Swiss machine or a Brown & Sharp.
Yeah, well, you've obviously picked up the manufacturing side of the business. I had the opportunity to meet you as you were traveling through our neck of the woods with Marty Nolan of RL English, and I, during that time, noted that you are one hell of a salesman, Vince. You got to have some background there, or did you just pick that up on the fly too?
No, that is actually what kind of started. I was always extremely lucky. I've had great mentors that have always, I always believe that when you work for somebody, whether it's a good relationship or a bad relationship, and I've been lucky to, really only have one potentially toxic relationship, but I always believe that there's something for you to learn from these people. And even from one of my bosses who it was always a bad situation, he always taught me that the one thing that I take with me wherever I go, which is you have to earn the right to ask for the business. And that doesn't mean that you're relying on your name. That doesn't mean you're relying on somebody else's name or somebody else's relationship. You have to earn the right to have somebody say, let me give this kid a shot. Let's see what he has to say.
Right.
So you didn't have a boss who told you that you were having a Friday fire sale? You saw like our last one, you had to sell something or you got fired? That wouldn't be a mentor.
No, believe it or not, it wasn't one of those things. It was a situation where it was part of an acquisition, and I was the lone person in the office from the acquiring company. So I was kind of like the enemy. So I knew how to, navigate through my company to get things done, and it just didn't really go over well with him since he was a couple of levels above me. But even then, I still managed to learn from him.
Funny how that works, isn't it? Well, you pulled a lesson out of the jaws of a difficult situation, so that's what makes you successful, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You always have to be, keeping the antennas up and finding a way to appreciate those around you.
Okay, so you're a troubleshooter, a turnaround artist. Is there one mistake that you see out there that's being made in the fastener industry, be it in manufacturers like yourself or in the companies that you go into? Are there any big mistakes that you can point to and say that's one that I really think people should be stamping out?
One of the biggest opportunities out there that I talk about is vendor management. I think that's the biggest thing that companies have not really paid attention to. They're not knowing who they're buying from. So whether it's a distributor or an OEM, when's the last time that they went out, kicked the tires of the company that they're looking to buy product from? Because the one thing, and I learned it in my first 60 days, with the Richard Mano company, when we had somebody come in to do an audit from the outside, you need to be prepared. And I always tell people, you don't want to buy a part from us or from anybody if you're not sure where it's going to end up or where it came from. When you come into the Richard Mano company and you see our product, our process, our people, our machinery, and you do your walkthrough and you see the calibrations of our gauges and you see our inspection department, you're going to walk out of there with a greater sense of comfort that should something go wrong with a part, you're not going to be embarrassed. You're not showing up to a company that, is a two-man operation. They're going to lift up the garage door and say, oh, well, what would you like to see? and they exist out there, and I'm not saying that they do a bad job. I'm certainly not, but that's not apples to apples with why you would come to the Richard Nano Company.
Got it.
There's just really just a lost segment there. I mean, there are companies, large companies, that they're sending quotes out to guys that are just doing jobbing out of their basement, not one machine. Now, some of these people represent it just as such. Others are saying, hey, yeah, I got plenty of machines, because nobody comes and visits them. And I think that's a real challenge that needs to be addressed within the industry. Knowing who you're buying from, knowing what your approved vendor list is, not just going off of the history, but getting out there and saying, hey, if something went wrong, am I going to be embarrassed?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, on the other side of that, America has been the great fountain of inventiveness, because people did start off companies, and lots of them started in their garages. If you're an established company, this is the nature of competition, isn't it?
Well, and listen, I think that's a great point. However, we all evolve. I mean, That doesn't mean that there's not a market segment out there. That just means are we segmenting our class of vendors and matching them up to our customers?
Yep. No, the comment's right.
What about technology, Vince? When you came in, did you make any technology adjustments during your overhaul?
We're still doing technology adjustments.
Well, I guess stupid question. That's never going to end.
It's incredible, because it's like anything else. Even if we just had a magic wand and we said, hey, give us the greatest invention ever for business management, manufacturing, software, or anything else, it all happens to come with the precursor of information. So to take bad information and put it into the greatest software there is, that's not going to get you what you want. So we've constantly been going through our data, scrubbing it up, making sure that it's accurate. And what we've gotten now is we've gotten to a point where we utilize our benchmarking, whether it be for sales, manufacturing, or financials, that we know where we are at every second of every day. And we're continuing to go further with that, and we're looking to use that to help us communicate with our customer base a lot more.
Is there a particular platform that you are using that you want to discuss?
I wouldn't plug it. It's old. It's proprietary, and it's a system that we're just very lucky that we have a programmer on full time that just sits there and helps react to my enhancements to better position the business.
We've got one of those too.
Thank you. Actually, just as a side issue, in a previous life, I was in England taken into a company to show. They were showing me in their manufacturing facility, and it was built in the Industrial Revolution, and they took me past a vertical lathe that was used for making the propellers for the big ocean-going liners. It was had been previously used about 50 years beforehand, and we were trying to improve the technology of this place, and it was surrounded by equipment that was used in the 1880s and 90s.
Wow.
What do we do here? So you don't have these problems. You've got a much more modern set of problems. But the manufacturing industry has been interesting in its, the software that people have thrown at it hasn't always worked particularly well.
Well, I think when you're also talking about the software feature, that's something that when you go to the next level up on, well, why does the software become more and more important? My first 12 months in this industry, people would be like, oh, so you're the bean counter. They brought in a bean counter. And I'm like, well, not really, but okay, if that's the way you want to view me. And, you sit there and they're just saying, well, you're a money guy. You don't know our product. You don't know this. You don't know that. You must be a bean counter. And I'm like, well, no, not really. I'm here to help turn this entire thing around, both financially, sales, production, every aspect of the business. And I think that's one of the things that we're starting to see even more out there when we talk about vendor consolidations, which a lot of the major companies are looking at. You get a lot of these large corporate entities that they're coming back to the smaller companies and they're saying, we'd like a rebate program. We'd like a 3% reduction over the next 3 years. And for doing that, we don't have to shop the business and we don't have to get shopped. And you're sitting there and you're going, how does that occur? You know, you're a $500 million company. I'm a little over $10 million and I'm financing you. And it's, you know, that's the effect of a bean counter. You're just going to squeeze out the next person. And I think, you know, and you go back to it and people go, well, you know, this industry used to be about relationships. Well, you know what? It is about relationships, but unfortunately, you have people at higher level positions that are certainly putting the financial screws to as many people out there as they can.
Well, relationships based on 120 days of credit.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I sit there and, you know, I know that was something that, you know, we had to work very hard at doing, getting into the right framework of making sure that we paid our vendors in time, because how could I ask other people to pay me on time if I wasn't paying my vendors on time? You know, that was kind of like business 101 the first, you know, 6 months that I was there. You know, it was, well, you can't cut people off. Everybody pays in 60 days. And I'm saying, what do you mean I can't cut people off? If we don't
Right.
get paid, I can't keep shipping them product.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a bank. I'm a manufacturing facility.
That's right. And what's funnier about it is, you know, you have some, you know, buyers do a great job at leveraging it. You know, we do all our quotes. We follow up. How do we look? Are we close to the pin? Where do we need to be? How can we work this out together? And, you know, you're building that relationship. But the buyers are certainly, you know, nickel and diming you every chance they can. And you know what? That's their job. Our job is to try to know when to hold firm, when to build value, when to go over and above and turn this whole thing into not about a dollar and cents, but about a quality and a partnership that's going to be better for both of our companies at the end of this day, not just the end of this transaction.
Yeah, no, that's true of many things.
Well, it sounds like you're well in command of the good ship Richard Mano and you're steering through the troubled waters. You know, we're going to have to shift gears here, but I wanted to ask you, here's another opportunity for something completely new on the show. We've got two individuals on from the same company with possibly two different perspectives. I'm going to ask you, did you happen to have a chance to hear the segment that we did previously on the show with Charlie Aceta, who worked at Richard Mano? And if so, did everything seem to add up with your side of the story?
Well, Charlie's a good guy, and you know, I think some of what Charlie said did add up in terms of, you know, knowing what he was walking into, you know, prior. I mean, I think that you know, I think I understand a little bit more of the history because, you know, I've been there now, you know, for the last 40 months, and you know, we've transitioned out some of the challenges that were there. I think it was a difficult task. I think it was one that I think the only reason why I was able to be successful with this is knowing a little bit more about the situation and the family before joining. I had basically put out there that, you know, hey, listen, in order for this to work, you know, I get the checkbook and we go from there. And this way there was autonomy from the family, and we could make that change to where we are today, which is, you know, professionally run entity. More and more people, you go through the industry, their vision and their view on the Richard Mano Company is so much different than it was 4 to 5 years ago.
Sure. Now, did you actually work at the company at any period at the same time, or was he gone when you got there?
No, he was gone prior to my arrival.
Okay. And did you ever hear stories about him writing poetry while he was working there?
Hey, Charlie's a great guy, and a lot of people, you know, they'll sit there and they'll be like, well, Charlie, you know, he's an author. And I'm like, wow, okay, you know, knowing some of the people that I was working with, I'm like, there's some irony right there, but, but no, Charlie's a good guy. And I think, from what I've heard, through, again, that's the other thing you always hear, as big as the industry is as small as it is.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people that are hearing this interview, they're going to say, hey, that is the guy that we met. And there's probably going to be other people that are going to say some other things. But, for the people that I worry about impressing, or for the people that at the end of the day I want to kind of either go out and break bread with or expand a business relationship with, I know that we have our supporters out there, and I'm tremendously thankful for them and helping me kind of cutting my teeth on this industry and making it a success that it's been.
Right. And I have to go back a second there and agree with you that, Charlie's got a lot to say, and we had a blast talking with him, and he was on the program. We'll try and get him on again one of these days.
His geopolitical views, now that was interesting. I think that deserves a show all on its own.
Actually, we had a show all on its own after the recording. It went on for about another 2 hours. And I can't say we are always in agreement.
One of my biggest regrets of Fully Threaded Radio is that we did not record that conversation, because, boy, we should have.
Yeah, we covered everything from global wars to the reasons for them, back to history about 4,000 years ago. It was an interesting conversation.
Well, speaking of coming to the end, we're about at the end of this segment. Unfortunately, Vince, it was great to have you with us. Where do people get more information about the Richard Mano Company, and how do they contact you?
Well, you can always just call the company, 631-643-2200, and speak to me direct. I always feel like, I'm the best talking point about Richard Mano, because I know what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. But we do have a website out there, www.richardmano.com. And again, just give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
You folks exhibit out at the Vegas show every year, don't you?
Every year. And from what I understand, in good times and bad, they always had an exhibit in Vegas. And that's something that we will certainly continue. And in fact, that, we may be expanding that beyond just Vegas. But, I find that for our customers, the Vegas Super Show is great. And it's more the opportunity for them to come over and see us and either congratulate us on a good year, or talk to us about things we need to do better for next year.
Agreed. It's one show in the industry that you really can't afford to miss.
No, that's true.
Well, Vince Chiappone of the Richard Mano Company, thanks once again for joining us. It was great to get to know you a little better, and we will see you, if not before, at the Vegas show.
You got it. I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Hey, mate.
You know what they say about not assuming, but does that apply to control too? Find out next on Fully Threaded.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting fastenal.com today.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
They're like more cowbell for the fastener industry. Brian and Eric. Fully Threaded Radio.
How you doing? This is Al Felice from Rapid Rivet Fastener, your rivet specialist, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, back with you on the online Fastener Party Bungalow.
Bungalow that's sort of covered in snow at the moment, actually.
That's true. We got socked here with a late winter blizzard here in the Chicago area. And, you know, actually, it's interesting you bring that up because I was just watching the Twitter stream, and I'm now following and being followed by Blech Russia.
What? Who?
I didn't think you would have heard of that. Well, Blech Russia happens to be the leading trade show for the sheet metal trade in Russia. It's another one of these Matt Brooks shows. I mean, those guys seem to have their hands in a lot of shows these days, but this is coming up here in March, and they were just tweeting that in St. Petersburg, Russia, which is where the Blech Russia 2013 show is going to happen, it's now minus 10 Celsius, so it's a little chilly. Makes me feel not so bad. That sounds pretty cold. I'm not exactly sure how cold that is. Do you know?
Yes, yeah, this is school stuff for us. Multiply it Celsius to Fahrenheit, 9/5 and add 32. So it's plus 14. It's 14 degrees Fahrenheit.
Huh. Okay, well, that is pretty nippy.
Yeah, well, it's only like an ordinary warm winter's day in Chicago. I mean, Chicago and the Russian or Siberia are about the same in temperature.
Yeah, well, we lucked out this winter, but anyway, if you're interested in learning more about Blech Russia, folks, there's a website for that. It's spelled BLECH Russia.com. And they're also out there on Twitter. Amazing what you can find out there, Bri. You should get out there once or twice.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Well, let's thank our guests on today's episode, and they were from the Richard Mano Company, Vinny Chiappone, and from Fastener and Industrial Products, the big deal in the fastener industry, Ms. Jackie Ventura. Also, Mike McNulty and Holden Lewis, BB&T Capital Markets Analyst, had the Fastener News Report for us. Great job again today, you guys. And the title sponsor on today's episode of Fully Threaded Radio was Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. Also sponsoring us today were Trinity Hardware Headquarters, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Fastener Technology International Magazine. Appreciate your support, everyone. Get out there and check out our Facebook page. There's going to be plenty of links following up this episode. We're also out there on Twitter under the handle Fully Threaded, and you can email us anytime at ftr@fullythreaded.com.
And you know that you can go to fullythreaded.com, and down the right-hand side of the page are the links that will help you to subscribe to your iPhone or an Android phone or a BlackBerry. Okay, so then you can have the podcast on your phone, and in the newer stuff, you don't have to hook your phone up to the computer. It can upload the podcast if you're on your own Wi-Fi at home.
Take FTR with you, folks. Travels well.
Especially in these cold times when you're stuck in very slow traffic, okay?
Spring's right around the corner, Bri. Hang tough.
Oh, yeah, it can't be soon enough for me.
I was thinking back to when Vinny Chiappone was describing in his interview the experience of being a part of a company that was taking over another company. And I have not had that experience myself. I have not been part of the group assuming control over another group. But I have had the reverse experience. And, looking around these days, it's, I don't know, this feeling that I get both in business, in the fastener industry with all the consolidation going on, and in the government with the way that they're trying to take control of our lives in seems like every way possible. Healthcare, guns, you name it. I was thinking back to my time at Platinum Technology. So in 1996, was a programmer for Platinum, and it was a great company to work for. And we had this charismatic leader, Flip Filipowski. Yeah, he was a very interesting character, and it was a wonderful experience. But from the day that I got there, it was clear that we had an arch enemy out there in the market, and that was Computer Associates, another huge software company. And both of these guys were going head to head, and we were acquiring companies and they were acquiring companies. I think Platinum got up to about 5,000 employees at one point at its height. And I was something like employee 300 something. So it was just a burst of growth, and Computer Associates was doing the same thing. Well, Flip used to leave these company-wide voicemails, like on Sunday nights. I think he probably had a couple glasses of wine, and he would get on these epic voicemails, and he would talk about how we would never, under any circumstances, be acquired by Computer Associates. I mean, this was just never going to happen.
Yeah, I remember these from you telling me.
Oh, they were epic. And, he would talk about, he would be carried out on his shield with his sword in his chest, before he would ever let that happen. There were rumors that there were poison pill clauses put in the software contracts so that if a CA deal ever did go down, that all sorts of bad things would happen. Well, you guessed it. The upshot was that in 1999, and the internet market was just boiling over. We wound up selling to Computer Associates, and at the time it was the biggest software deal ever, $3.5 billion. And to put that in perspective, the recent MSC Barnes deal was $550 million. So dropping.
Yeah, right.
Flip personally made $290 million on the deal. So it was kind of I guess you could call it bittersweet for him, but it was just an amazing feeling. You picked up the phone that morning when you came into work and you heard we were purchased by Computer Associates. Wow.
Yes, because they didn't have the greatest name in those days. They may have got their act together now, but there are a number of companies in those days that all you had to do is put up a store and stick IT consultants and you could make money in them.
Well, that's true. I mean, services was a big part of both of those businesses. The software was, of course, the driver, but I mean, they were existing on acquisition. I mean, they just kept buying companies, and I don't think the shareholders of either could really keep up with where they were exactly, but that's the way it was in those days. But just the experience of realizing that we were being taken over by the cyborgs, as we used to call CA, it was weird. And they had this reputation that, I mean, it was like being taken over by the Russian army during World War II. If you were a German, it was just, they're coming and they're going to start cutting, and it was creepy.
Yeah. So what lessons do you draw from that? How does that apply to what we're seeing today?
Right. Well, again, I come back to this feeling that I have all the time now about you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, we've had some really big acquisitions happen with Barnes here, with H. Paulin earlier, and others, and you just see this activity all around you. So it's a little unsettling. I guess I just wanted to throw that story out there because that was back in the late 90s, and ultimately it did lead to good things. You know, I mean, one thing leads to another. Hey, without that acquisition, possibly we wouldn't have Fully Threaded Radio today, right?
This is true, actually.
So, food for thought, folks, in these tenuous times of acquisition and consolidation, both in the business world and in government. Well, Bri, I know you have a few similar tales in your storybook as well.
That is true. Both your ex-boss and my ex-boss are in jail as we speak. But we can get to that when and if we do the next episode.
Well, what do you mean? Why would we not have a next episode?
Because by then, they may have assumed control.
Well done. That'll wrap it up for episode 60 of Fully Threaded Radio. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, see you next time.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there and sell some screws, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.